The night the truth broke loose. The kitchen clock was ticking too loud, and the fridge motor kept kicking on, a tired wheeze that made the glass on the counter tremble. I had flour on my palms from rolling pie dough. Evelyn likes her crust thin, and my fingers left pale, dusty prints on the manila envelope I should have tossed years ago. I slit it with a butter knife, more out of boredom than curiosity, and a smell of old paper and lemon cleaner came out, like the attic after summer. Inside was a folded church bulletin from May 2 decades back, a faded Polaroid tucked in it, and a receipt from the Blue Lantern Motel off Route 8. Room 214. 2 nights. Paid cash. The Polaroid was the kind you never see anymore, punched with light leaks at the corners. Evelyn was in it, hair shorter, a green cardigan I remember because I bought it for her on a clearance rack. Her smile was bright, but not for me. A man's hand was in the frame, just the hand, resting on her knee. I knew that wristwatch. I knew it because I engraved it in my head the year our son was born, when I worked weekends and put one like it on layaway, and then couldn't afford it after the car ate a transmission. The watch wasn't mine. I didn't sit down. I couldn't. I stood there with the butter knife and the flour and the envelope, and I heard the back door, Evelyn humming, her grocery bag rustling like dry leaves. "We were out of vanilla," she said, and the kitchen filled with the thin sweet of it as she set the bottle on the counter. I slid the motel slip back into the bulletin and pressed the whole thing under my palm like a magician hiding a card. Not yet. Not one word yet. I felt my chest go light, then heavy. The clock kept ticking like it was daring me. I understood who I'd underestimated, but I wasn't ready to say it out loud. Evelyn's good at reading faces, so I turned away and wiped my hands with a dish towel until it was wet through and left little circles on the wood. "You okay?" she asked. "You look like you swallowed a splinter." "Fine," I said. Got salt in my eye. It was all I could invent without choking on it. The lie sat cheap in my mouth. I tucked the envelope into the cookbook with the binding half broken and a gravy stain on page 47. She kissed my cheek, soft, and went to hang her cardigan on the chair, the same color as the one in the photo but older, peeled at the sleeves from the dryer. I watched her hands. The small scar near her ring finger from the broken mason jar 3 summers back. The way she pinched her lips when she read a label. My wife. 20 years of coffee spoons and church pews and birthday candles. 20 years, and a motel with thin towels and square pillows I could picture clear as day. That evening, after supper, our daughter called about Theo's school play and whether we could make it next week. Evelyn put the call on speaker, and we did the grandparent chorus. Yes, of course, wouldn't miss it. And when the call ended, she set the phone down, face down. It made a soft plastic click, and my stomach hollered like it was empty though I'd eaten double helpings. "You're awfully quiet," Evelyn said, turning to the sink. "You thinking about that roof again? I told you Roscoe can patch the south side for cheap." "I'm thinking about old bills," I said. "Don't," she said. "They were paid or they weren't. What's the use?" She always could close a subject with 8 words. I dried the last plate and looked at the window. The reflection showed us like a picture in a frame. 2 people who had made a life. In the pane, I could almost see the Polaroid. Her head tipped that same way, but the light here was a plain motel yellow instead of our kitchen's soft bulb. My hand tightened on the dish, and I set it down too hard. It clinked and wobbled. She didn't flinch. She wiped the counter, moving the salt and pepper, the little wooden rooster our son carved in shop class. I heard a sentence in my head after which there was no way back. Later, in the den, the TV mumbling. Evelyn dozed with her feet tucked under a knit throw. I took the cookbook from the shelf, family favorites, and went out to the garage where the air smelled like motor oil and cedar shavings. I opened to the gravy-stained page. The envelope stared up. I switched on the bench light. I pulled out the bulletin and the receipt. Then I saw there was one more thing I'd missed. A half-torn index card, blue lines, her careful handwriting. "This stays between us," it said. Only that. No signature. No name. No date. Just the kind of promise people write down when they know they're already past the line. Why didn't I wake her and demand names right then? Give me a second. I'll tell you. I've learned in 72 years that truth's like a skittish thing. If you grab too quick, it bolts. If you wait, it wanders closer and shows you its throat. So I slid the Polaroid under the magnet clip on the lamp where only I could see it, and I studied the hand and the watch. The watch had a scratch at the bezel near the 4. Deep. Not new even then. A working man's mark, not some banker's. The motel receipt had a stamp for the clerk on duty. Gr. I rolled the letters in my mouth. I knew two Gr.'s in Rookfield back then. One was the insurance man who ran too much and dressed like a traffic cone. The other was a line supervisor at the feed mill, broad as a doorframe, the one who wore a watch that glinted at picnics. He married late, left town early. I could picture his laugh. It had a wetness to it. It stuck like gum. That same night, I pulled down a box of old tax returns. The cardboard gave a small sigh. I spread forms across the workbench like a timeline. May that year, what was I doing? I found a stub. Overtime. 2 weekends. Saturday and Sunday. Double rate. The math was plain. I was earning the roof over us while someone else sat in a motel room with my wife and a clock without a conscience on the wall. My jaw clicked. The light buzzed overhead. The garage door metal pinged as it cooled. I made my first mistake right there. I let anger pick the next move. I snapped a photo of the Polaroid with my phone and texted it to a number I hadn't dialed in 8 years. Jax, my son. You up? I typed. It was late, and he has 2 kids and a wife who likes to keep the house quiet after 9. A minute later, those 3 dots blinked. Then nothing. Then, Dad? Everything okay? I looked at the screen and saw my reflection in the glass, the tired man with the set mouth. I didn't hit send on the photo. I deleted the draft and cursed under my breath for even thinking of dragging him into a storm I hadn't charted. Some burdens you carry until you know where to set them down. I put the phone in my pocket and sat in the old lawn chair by the tool chest and counted to 100. Twice. I could hear Evelyn shift in the den, the throw sliding, the TV still murmuring to an empty room. Next morning, I made coffee like always. I buttered her toast. I asked if she wanted the blueberry jam. She said yes. Her hair smelled like the bar shampoo she buys at the co-op. The small house sounds were a comfort and an accusation both. I'll go to the market later, she said. We're low on onions. Take the Buick, I said. The truck's got a rattle. I heard it, she said, chewing slow. You should have Roscoe listen. I will, I said. I didn't. Not yet. After breakfast, I told her I'd promised to look in on Gus next door. His hip was acting up again, and I took the long way around the block instead, under the oak that drops acorns like hail this time of year, past the VFW where I used to play cards. I stood a while by the Blue Lantern's dumpster in my mind, wondering if the smell of bleach lingers 2 decades. I was building a map. Where, when, who? You can't take a man's piece without leaving a footprint. All I had to do was teach myself to see them. Here's the price. Now you'll hear why I decided to pay it myself. I came back and found Evelyn at the dining table with the good placemats out, a thing she only does when she's making lists. She had the paper calendar open and a pen between her fingers. The thing at church moved to Friday, she said. You can still help with the rummage? I'll be there, I said. My voice was even. I surprised myself with how even. She smiled, all trust and routine, and then she did something that jammed the day like a stick in the spokes. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You're a good man, she said. I don't say that enough. There it was. The kindness that makes a person hesitate. The human part that throws a rope around your anger and pulls. I could have told her then. I could have said, read this, explain that, show me your sorrow. But part of me wanted to see the whole picture first. If I asked too early, she'd hand me the small truth and hide the big one. I wanted the big one. I wanted to know why the church bulletin. Why the note? Why the Blue Lantern and not anywhere else? I wanted names and dates and a reason I could put in the ground like a stake. I had one day to turn everything over. By afternoon, I'd called in a favor with someone who remembers details for a living, and I'd found the name behind those initials on the receipt. That's for later. For now, I'll tell you this. I slid the envelope back into the cookbook, and for the first time in 20 years, I kissed my wife and felt nothing but calculus. It was day 2. The pie came out fine. The crust flaked under my fork. We ate in quiet like people who know all their habits and none of their ghosts. I made a decision that would split our month in half. The 3rd morning, I woke to the smell of bacon, Evelyn's ritual when she wants the house warm and ordinary. But the grease hiss in the pan only sharpened my thoughts. I stared at the ceiling fan turning slow, each blade casting a shadow across the plaster like a clock hand. 20 years, and I'd slept under that same fan, blind. Now every sound in the house carried a question. I walked into the kitchen, and she was barefoot, humming along with the radio, a dish towel tucked at her waist. The Polaroid burned behind my eyes like an afterimage from a flashbulb. She handed me a plate. Eat before it gets cold. I chewed, but taste didn't come. The salt of the bacon, the crisp, nothing landed. She watched me across the table, chin propped on her fist. You've been far off lately, she said. You're not sick, are you? Not sick, I told her. My voice came out too flat, and I covered it with a cough. Just not sleeping right. That roof again. She smiled like she thought she had me pinned. Something like that, I said. Why didn't I confront her right then? Because I had already picked my trap, and you can't spring it before it's baited. That afternoon, I drove out to the Blue Lantern. It had changed, new sign, fresh coat of paint, but the parking lot still carried the smell of cigarettes ground into the pavement. A maid's cart rattled near the stairs. I walked into the lobby. The clerk was young, maybe 20, with a nose ring and chipped polish. She looked me over like I didn't belong. Checking in. No. Checking a memory, I said. Who manages this place? Ms. Lopez, she said. Why? Old friend of mine used to work here. I lied. 2 decades back. Initials G. R. Mean anything to you? She shrugged. Before my time. Try records, but I doubt we keep stuff that old. She wasn't wrong. Motel records don't survive years of owners. But I wasn't looking for a file. I was looking for a smell, a corner, a piece of furniture that would match the ghost I'd been carrying. I climbed the stairs and walked the hall until I found room 214. The brass numbers were newer, but the door itself was the same cheap hollow kind. I pressed my palm against it. The wood was warm from the sun, but I swear I felt the cold of that night years ago pushing back through. Here's the mistake. I lingered too long. Can I help you? A voice said. I turned, and the maid stood behind her cart, watching me too close. I shook my head and left without another word. Now there was a face that might remember mine if anyone asked later. That evening, Evelyn poured 2 bourbons, another ritual, Friday nights. We sat on the porch, the crickets loud, the neighbor's dog whining at the chain. She lifted her glass and said, To us. I repeated it. To us. The words scratched on the way out. She studied me over the rim. You're hiding something. I laughed like she'd told a joke. What would I hide from you? Her smile came, slow and knowing. Exactly. Nothing. I sipped. The bourbon burned, but it cleared my head. She leaned against my shoulder, content. I felt the weight of her, the trust of it, and underneath, the picture of her with that stranger's hand on her knee. My jaw tightened. I kept still. That was the night I started digging backward, not forward. The next morning, I drove to the county archive. The clerk there, a man with tired eyes and too much hair gel, asked what I needed. Employment rosters, I said. Feed mill, early 2000s. He frowned. That's specific. Family research, I said. Writing a history. He shrugged and led me to a back room with metal shelves, the air cool and dry like paper dust. It took an hour, but I found it. Staff list, May that year. One name jumped. Greg Rollins. Gr. I closed the binder and sat there a minute. My hands shook, not from age but from confirmation. I remembered him now, broad shoulders, a laugh too wet, the gleam of that wristwatch. He'd disappeared from town not long after. Folks said he went south for work. Others said debt chased him out. Why didn't Evelyn ever mention him? That's the thread I started pulling. Back home, I made supper, chili, heavy with cumin. Evelyn ate slow, spoon scraping the bowl. Spicy tonight, she said. Adds flavor, I told her. She smiled, wiped her lips, and asked, What did you do today? Checked in on Gus. Read a little. Napped. She nodded, satisfied. Not a hint of suspicion. That almost angered me more than if she'd pressed. After dinner, I went to the garage and laid the Polaroid next to the roster photocopy. 2 decades bridged by 2 scraps of paper. I felt like I'd just loaded the first round of a weapon I hadn't used in years. I thought of telling Jack then, our son, but I held back. Here's why. Children carry enough weight of their own. You don't hand them yours until you've stripped the edges sharp. I needed sharper edges. That night, Evelyn came to bed and pressed her hand against my chest, gentle. You're still awake, she murmured. Can't sleep, I said. You worry too much, she whispered. And within minutes, she was asleep herself, steady breaths, the smell of her shampoo on the pillow. I lay there with eyes open, watching the fan blades turn, thinking of room 214 and a watch with a scar near the 4. I heard a phrase in my head. one that promised there'd be no turning back once I spoke it. By day 5, I had chosen my path. I wouldn't ask her. I wouldn't beg for the truth. I would make the truth come out, with her own words. That's where the plan began. And that was the first step toward a trap that might burn down the whole house with it. By the start of the second week, the air in the house felt thinner, like the windows were shut against a storm only I could hear. The calendar sat open on the dining table with the church rummage circled in red, and the school play marked in our daughter's careful blue. Every square had a promise scribbled on it. Help set up, bake cookies, fix the hymn board. But the only promise that mattered to me was the one Evelyn had written 20 years ago on that torn index card. This stays between us. I carried the card in my shirt pocket like a hot coin. It warmed through my chest when I bent down to tie my shoes and when I washed my hands at the sink. I could smell lemon cleaner and bacon from the week before, the house stubbornly ordinary. I told myself this. The truth would come out of her own mouth, clean or not at all. I knew who I'd underestimated, but I still wasn't ready to say it out loud. On Monday morning, I drove to a pawn shop that squats between a tire place and an empty storefront with sun-faded for lease banners flapping against the brick. The doorbell gave a flat jingle when I pushed in. It smelled of metal and dust and old smoke. Behind the glass, watches lay like sleeping minnows, and I scanned for a bezel scar near the 4. There it was, same brand, same thick bracelet, and a nick that made my breath hitch. I asked the clerk to see it. He slid it over, bored eyes on a small TV, tuned to a game show. I turned the crown, watched the second-hand stutter, listened to the faint tick. Not the watch, maybe, but close enough to stir a memory from across a bar at the VFW. Greg Rollins laughing too wet, his wrist catching the neon. How much? I asked. For you, old-timer, 80, he said. He was 30 at best, soft and pale, and he said it like he was doing me a favor. I didn't haggle. I paid cash, tucked the watch into my pocket. On the way out, the bell jangled again, too cheerful. In the car, I sat a minute, the steering wheel warm under my palms, and pictured leaving the watch where Evelyn would find it without me watching. Kitchen drawer where we keep the tape and batteries. Or under the remote, the way lost things pretend they found you. I wanted her to pick it up and freeze. I wanted the catch in her throat. Wanted the words that would follow because silence won't survive a relic. Here's the mistake I almost made. I almost enjoyed that image. Tuesday, I called in that favor I'd teased it back on day 2. Carl Benton, retired deputy, careful eyes, a man who stores details the way diners keep sugar packets. Owed me for helping him patch a fence one winter when his back went bad. He answered on the second ring. Mornin', I was just thinking of you. I need a name to go with some letters, I told him. Blue Lantern, long time ago. Clerk with initials G.R. Same time a guy named Greg Rollins worked the feed mill. He didn't ask why. Carl's a blessing that way. I heard paper shuffle, the scratch of a pencil. Rollins, he repeated. Give me a day. 1 day's enough, I said. It had to be. My chest had that hollowed-out feeling again, like a room after a party when all the cups still sweat on the table. That afternoon, I helped Evelyn sort donations in the church basement. The concrete floor felt cold through my boots, the air sharp with old books and dryer sheets. She wore the yellow volunteer badge the way she wears everything, lightly, like nothing heavy ever touched her. We folded clothes, stacked paperbacks, set aside chipped bowls. I slipped the Polaroid into a tattered cookbook, a twin to the one at home, and slid it into a box labeled Kitchen, $1. It wasn't the whole plan, just a seed. If the photo surfaced on a stranger's table between a potato ricer and a bundt pan, it might travel through town faster than a bulletin ever could. But I'd retrieve it before sale day. This was rehearsal. I wanted to watch what happened inside me when that picture left my hands. My pulse quickened. My grip loosened. I let it go. I heard a line in my head that would make it impossible to go back. Did you get the hymnals? Evelyn asked, voice echoing between metal shelves. On my way, I said. I moved past her, close enough to smell the starch in her blouse. She reached out and brushed dust from my shoulder, a small mothering habit long after anyone asked for it. You're somewhere else, she said, not unkind. Come back. I'm here, I said. It was almost true. Wednesday morning, Carl called. G.R. stands for Gloria Ruiz, he said. She was night clerk back then, married a trucker, and moved to Amarillo around '06. I have an old number that might still be her sister's. Text it to me, I said, dry mouth. A woman's initials. I'd assumed a man because of the watch and the hand in the photo, because of the roster, because anger narrows the eye. A clerk named Gloria could confirm a registration name, a room request, a pattern of visits. She could also say she didn't remember a thing. I stared at the number when it came through, my thumb hovering. I didn't call. Not yet. There was another tick I needed to set. I took the pawned watch and laid it in the kitchen junk drawer under the roll of duct tape and the spare keys. Then I waited. I raked leaves though it was too early in the season. I checked the mailbox twice. I called Gus and offered to bring over soup I hadn't made. Anything to keep from hovering. When Evelyn got home from the market, she put away groceries, humming. She opened the drawer for the tape to fix a ripped paper bag. The sound she made was small, half breath, half something heavier. Where did this come from? She asked. Her voice wasn't shocked exactly. It was careful. She lifted the watch by 2 fingers like it might bite. Found it in the garage, I said too quickly. Behind the paint cans. She peered at the face, at the nick near the 4. It's old, she said. Must have been yours. Not mine, I said. I kept my face a picture frame. You can have it if you want. I don't wear bracelets, she said. She put it back in the drawer and closed it with the heel of her hand. Her eyes didn't meet mine. She moved to the sink, ran water over lettuce leaves that didn't need washing. The water ran too long. The drawer clicked in my head like a vault door. I realized what I'd misjudged, but I still kept my silence. That night, lying in bed, I counted backwards. The date on the motel receipt. The calendar in the church bulletin. The month our son was born. I did the math you never want to do. It didn't prove a thing, not standing on its own, but it leaned hard on a door I'd nailed shut years ago with trust and habit. I could feel that door bowing. I pressed my palm against my chest, like I could keep it from giving. Here's the moral knife that found me. If I kept going, I might not be the only man I'd take down. Thursday, on the porch, I watched the neighbor's kid toss a basketball at a rim screwed crooked above their garage. The thump-thump, the irregular clang, it drummed against my ribs. Evelyn came out with 2 coffees, handed me one, sat without speaking. The watch sat in the drawer not 10 feet from us. The Polaroid sat in a church basement inside a dollar cookbook I didn't intend to let anyone buy. And there I was, a man thinking like a stagehand, arranging props for a show that would star the woman he'd loved since he was 22. You're quiet again, she said finally. Just thinking about Friday, I said. Crowds at the rummage. Long day. She laughed a little. You always did hate crowds. It's not the bodies, I said. It's the noise. What kind of noise? She asked. She wasn't teasing. The kind that sticks to things, I said. She looked at me for a beat too long, then away. By Friday morning, rummage day, I had a plan I could say out loud, if only to myself. I would call Gloria Ruiz from the church office phone while Evelyn sat 10 feet away pricing teacups. I would ask dates, names, anything she remembered, and I would let the words carry across the thin partition of that basement like radio waves. I would not accuse. I would not raise my voice. I would make the truth plain and give Evelyn no place to set it down, but between us. And here's where the dilemma tightened its grip. Our grandson's play was that same evening. He'd painted his cardboard shield himself, glued silver glitter around the edges. We'd promised him a photo under the gym banner, the kind you put on the fridge and keep until the magnet rusts. If I lit the fuse at noon, what would I be walking into at 7? A wrecked night, and a boy who wouldn't understand the weather in his grandparents' faces. Or I could hold, and let the truth age another day, another week, while the watch and the Polaroid and the math chewed at me like a quiet animal. I had one day to flip everything, and maybe the sense to know what not to flip. At 11, I stood in the church office, hand on the receiver, the number to Gloria spelled in Carl's tidy printing on a scrap of paper. Through the open door, I could hear Evelyn talking to Mrs. Tannen about pricing a punch bowl set. It's missing a ladle, Evelyn said. So $2 is fair. Her voice was steady. My hand wasn't. I dialed the first 3 numbers. Then I set the phone down. Not because I lost my nerve, but because I decided on something harder. I would give the boy his play. I would let him have the photo with glitter on his shirt and a grin under the banner. And then, when the house was quiet and the make-believe swords were put away, I would open the drawer, place the watch on the table, lay down the Polaroid, and ask my wife to walk me through a month I'd missed 2 decades ago. No heat, no show, Just the full weight of what two people can carry and still stand up under. I'm not saying it was noble. I'm saying it was the only way to live with myself. So I slid the Polaroid out of the cookbook box, tucked it into my wallet, and went to help Evelyn carry a crate of mismatched mugs to the front. She smiled at me like I'd come back from wherever I'd been hiding. After the sale, we should head straight to the school, she said. Theo wants us early. We will, I said. The words felt right in my mouth for the first time all week. But I kept Carl's scrap of paper. And I kept the drawer closed on the watch. And I kept one number in my head that I would dial if you're ready to hear what came next. The night it all came down, the house smelled of rain. The storm had rolled through at dusk, and the shingles still dripped steady on the eaves, a hollow tick like a clock without mercy. I sat at the kitchen table with the Polaroid in front of me, the pawned watch beside it, and the torn index card laid flat like a verdict. The overhead light hummed. My hands were steady. Evelyn was upstairs folding laundry, humming the same tune she'd hummed 20 years ago when she thought I didn't notice. I knew if I called her down now, she'd come with that calm face she's worn all our life together. And then, no more hiding. I'd promised myself I'd wait until the play was behind us, until Theo's cardboard shield was retired, until his grin wasn't spoiled by shadows he couldn't understand. I kept that promise. I clapped. I smiled for photos. I held Evelyn's hand on the bleachers. But now the stage lights were cold, and it was just us and a table full of ghosts. When she came down, she looked tired, hair pinned loose, sweatshirt soft from 100 washes. She saw the table and stopped. Not a gasp, not a cry, just stillness. Her eyes took in the Polaroid, the watch, the card. She pulled out the chair slow, sat across from me, folded her hands. All this time I said, my voice didn't rise. It was the sound of something too heavy to throw. She didn't touch the picture. She looked at me instead. I wondered when, she said. When? I asked. When you'd find it, she said. I knew I'd left something. I never knew what. The words landed like stones dropped in water. So it's true, I said. It happened, she said. Once. Not a romance, not a secret life. Just one mistake that lasted a weekend. And the card? I asked. The promise. Her fingers tightened. It was for me. Not for him. A way of saying I'd bury it and never let it touch what we built. I leaned forward. But it did touch. It touched 20 years later, Evelyn. You can't promise something into the ground and expect it not to grow back. The rain outside quickened, as if pressing the point. She closed her eyes, then opened them. Do you want me to beg? No, I said. I want the truth. All of it. Why him? Why then? She took a long breath. Because you were gone every night that month. Because I was scared, alone with a baby and bills, and he was there. He made it easy to forget for a night. That's all. I hated myself after. I never saw him again. Her voice was even, but her eyes glistened. She didn't wipe them. Here's the part one hadn't prepared for. Hearing her admit it didn't give me triumph. It hollowed me out. You let me build 20 years on a lie, I said. No, she said. On us. Everything after was real. You know it. I wanted to argue, but the weight of our years pressed against the words. Birthdays, funerals, Sunday dinners, the smell of cinnamon rolls, the hum of the fan. Were those lies too? Or did one lie thread through them like rod in a beam? The clock on the wall clicked. My grandson's glitter still clung to my sleeve from the play. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the number Carl gave me, Gloria Ruiz's sister in Amarillo. I set it beside the photo. Evelyn's eyes followed it. You could call, she said. Her voice was quiet, flat. She'd confirm. Maybe she'd even remember the date. Maybe she'd tell you more than I did. But what would you do with it? Build a gallows? For me? For us? I didn't answer. I held the scrap between my fingers, felt the ink bleed where sweat dampened the paper. Here's the choice I faced, justice or survival. I stood, walked to the sink, and turned on the tap. The scrap bled fully, the ink running blue into the drain. I let it go. The Polaroid I burned in the trash can out back, the flame quick and bright, smoke curling against the night rain. The watch I dropped in the creek behind the house, where the water took it without a sound. When I came back, Evelyn was still at the table, hands folded. She looked at me the way she had the first time I asked her to dance, years ago, uncertain, hopeful, afraid. I don't forgive you, I said. My voice was sharp now, hard. But I'm not leaving. Not yet. We'll live with this. And every time I see you set the table or fold a towel or hum a song, I'll remember that motel. That's the price. She nodded, slow. I'll pay it, she said. The rain eased. The house went quiet. Upstairs, the laundry waited, clean and folded, like any other night. So tell me, was that mercy, or was it just another kind of punishment? Because here's the thing, child, sometimes revenge doesn't come with fire or knives. Sometimes it comes with silence across a table, every night, for the rest of your life. If you want more truths like this, truths that don't fit in family albums, stay close. I've got more than one story left in me.